Hello. Welcome everybody to the Inner Circle Wine Preview virtual event. We are so excited to offer this experience to you today. We have a wonderful presentation for you that we hope will elevate your enthusiasm for your upcoming wine selections. We will be tasting the 2019 Sauvignon Blanc, the 2019 Gewürztraminer, the 2017 Three Sons, which I think is a favorite amongst the crew here, the 2017 Hillside Cuvee, the 2017 Clone 828, and the 2017 Best of the Best. We have a video and some slides to share with you that we hope will enhance this live stream experience for all of you. Ross is going to be sharing a story with you about the wines and comment on some of the notes and characteristics for each one. Jennifer has a video of our custom crush facility, as well as an overview of how our winemaking timeline plays out. We hope that that is interesting to all of you. We have Bruce Reisenman here with us today. So nice to have you, Bruce. Owner and executive chef of Park Avenue Catering, who is going to be sharing some food pairings with us. A little bit about Bruce and Park Avenue Catering. Park Avenue Catering has served up quality food and service with a side of philanthropy, and community involvement. Most recently, Park Avenue Catering has been serving 1,200 meals per week for Catholic charities and another 1,000 per week for harvest meals for the workers at various wineries throughout the county. He is also producing micro events and larger pop-up restaurant style events in this time of COVID. And again, we're really excited to have you here, Bruce, to be a part of this presentation and share your expertise. For those of you who don't know, I'm Stephanie Culen, Director of Sales here at Halleck Vineyard. And I'm also a certified sommelier through the Court of Master Sommeliers. I will be mostly on chat for the presentation, responding to your questions and ideas. And right now we're going to start with our Sauvignon Blanc. Ross, take it away. Oh, there we go.
I want to welcome everybody here and ditto what Stephanie was saying, how grateful we are and excited we are to do this in this new channel, these new technologies, these streaming technologies. Since we can't be together, we can be together. I also want to thank Bruce and say another little thing about Bruce. Bruce and I have been friends for 25 years. He's an extraordinary chef. We've done tons of vintner dinners together. He's got a long history of tasting and pairing. And I think this is actually for all the dinners we've done together, actually, Bruce served the very first dinner we did with Josh Groban. And I think this is, though, the first time we've ever tasted together. You know, we've dined together and but I don't think this is, I'm really excited to do that.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And then also I want to do a little shout out for Ray and Leah and Jeff, who are celebrating their anniversaries today. So just a little heart-to-heart gratitude and congratulations for sharing your day with us. So to begin, we're going to jump right into our Sauvignon Blanc. And this has always been one of my favorite wines. I've always described myself as a new world winemaker with old world style, and fell in love with Sancerre back in my early 20s and have been attempting to make a Sancerre ever since. And, you know, a little story about this wine is that people always ask is, why is it called Little Sister? And the reason it's called Little Sister is because when we first made our estate grown Pinot Noir, we really, I would say, didn't have a clue what we were doing. And we were working with an extraordinary winemaker, Greg LaFollette, and made our very first estate grown Pinot Noir, and it won #1 Pinot Noir in the United States, first time out. And so then we ran out of wine really quickly. And so the next year we made our second wine, which is called Sons Cuvee. We're going to taste that today. And we describe that as the little brother to our estate grown. And then we decided that we had to make a white wine, and I was intent on making a Sancerre, as naive as that was, being 6,000 miles away from Sancerre as we are here in California from France, and seeking those classic Sancerre notes of neutral citrus on the nose, a touch of sea breeze, a little teeny hint of cat pee. That bright acidity, neutral citrus, and that just refreshing kind of earthy tone that comes with a Sancerre. And it's what I've been striving for ever since. And it's always a moving target. And I'm excited to try this wine today to see how close we've come. So with that, I invite you all to pick up your glass and give it a whiff. And again, what we're looking for in the nose is that bright citrus note. And I think this really delivers on the sea breeze, like sort of a breeze running over a beach where you get, kind of the seashell smells, kind of a touch of brininess. And then, I hope you don't have to stretch too far, but there is that earthy little bit in there, which is often described as cat pee. Here in California, there's a little, we're a little bit more prudish than in France, and they call it boxwood. But if you ever go and smell a boxwood plant, and Jennifer used to have it planted in front of her house, it smells just like cat pee. It smells like cat's peed all over. So I think we're getting that with this wine here, and let's give it a taste.
Bruce, how did you like it?
I really enjoyed the wine, and there's another piece of the wine that I like a lot, and that's the mouthfeel. It fills your mouth. It's got some body to it, and that to me is first. Everything I taste, I always look to think about how it's going to go with food. And I think it's a really nice body to the wine, as well as the crispness and the acidity. I think is really what stands out for me.
And I think that body is what sets it apart from a Sancerre, because oftentimes a Sancerre it has all those wonderful flavors, but it's very thin on the mouth, and so kind of more of a casual wine. And this sort of gives that mouthfeel that you're describing is something we really strive for. We have a little trick on how we achieve that every year. But that's what really sets it apart from a classic Sancerre, is that richness in the mouth.
And I think because of that, it holds up even better with food.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your call, Bruce? What would you pair this with if you're having it for dinner?
Well, the one thing that I always think about is what's available right now. So, I happen to have some gorgeous tomatoes in my garden. Sun Gold's the small little golden tomatoes. Nice. And so I tried one of those with the wine, and it went beautifully. What I made the other day is what I call a golden gazpacho. So it's a combination of cucumber, golden tomatoes, and corn, with a little bit of acidity, a little bit of yogurt added to it, which kind of balances out with the wine. And it was a really nice combination. And then what I did was I threw a little touch of chorizo in there, Spanish chorizo. So that spiciness just brought out that citrus, and the body of the wine just held beautifully to it. So that was a nice combination right there. So anything you do with those type of tomatoes, a little bit of acidity, a little bit of spice, I thought worked really well.
Nice.
And is the liquid in the gazpacho entirely from the tomatoes and the yogurt?
You know what? It depends on the tomatoes. The ones I used are kind of a softer flavor. They're not very acidic. So I did add a little bit of a touch of cider vinegar to it.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably needed a little touch of some liquid and that bright
to balance it out and work. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, so I'm now going to share with you, before we go on to the Gewürztraminer, a timeline. And hold on, I'm giving it to Stephanie right now. There we go. So this timeline is showing you the production of our wine. And we often get the question, how long does it take to make wine? And this timeline gives you a visual description of the basic stages of winemaking. Harvest is anywhere from August to October, so it's right now. During that time, the winery will receive grapes daily. The pick date, the date that the grapes are harvested, is decided by the winemaker. Pick date can vary from winemaker to winemaker, and it is part of the art of making wine. Within hours of picking, the grapes are destemmed and held in a fermentation tank with the skins still intact. First, fermentation tanks come in all shapes and sizes. Primary fermentation is when yeast begins to eat the sugars in the fruit, producing both heat and alcohol. The higher the sugar, the higher the alcohol. And this process takes 2 to 3 weeks. After fermentation, the wines are pressed to separate the juice from the skins and the seeds. Our white wine goes back into tanks where it will remain until January, when it is bottled and then released the following month. On the other hand, after fermentation, the Pinot Noir is transferred into barrels where it will age for 10 months. It's then bottled and shipped to the warehouse where it will age for 2 more years. So from the start to the finish, the Pinot Noir takes about 3 years to produce.
And so hence we're tasting the 2017s today. And something to note is in the fermentation process is that not only with the higher sugar is higher alcohol, but it's also higher heat. And so those tanks for fermentation need to be kept chilled, because what will happen is if it gets too warm is that the yeast will die and you'll have residual sugar left in the wine. And so what our job is to check those temperatures and the sugars. If it's not in a refrigerated tank, it has to be checked every 2 hours, and we put dry ice in it to keep it at a constant temperature, so the yeast fulfill their job of fermenting the sugars, and all the wines that we make are entirely dry.
Thank you. That was such a great presentation. I love harvest. We're right in the middle of harvest right now, so it's just such a beautiful time to see all the trucks running around with their grapes in the bins, and they're going to their locations, and it's just such a special time here in wine country. And I think, Jennifer, now you have, we're going to be tasting, actually, no, we're going to be tasting the dry Gewürztraminer now. So
yeah.
That's right. So the dry Gewürztraminer is a very special wine to me. Those of you who have been here know that I spent my youth, my early adult years in Kenya. And I was introduced to this wine in Kenya. And they served it as a chutney with Indian food. And coming from Rockford, Illinois, I knew nothing about Indian food. When we had ethnic food in Rockford, it was Italian. It's funny because I just had 2 people here from Rockford today from when I grew up. And they both agreed. They said the only ethnic food still in Rockford is Italian, or chop suey. And so, they now have some Japanese restaurants. But when I was in Kenya, they served the dry Gewürztraminer as a chutney, as a condiment, with the hot curried spices. And so when I came back to the United States, I learned to cook Indian food, and I wanted to make this wine to go with the food that I cooked. And everybody told me I was crazy to make this wine because, one, nobody ate Indian food, but most importantly, that nobody could pronounce it. And so despite those handicaps, this is our very fastest selling wine. This will be sold out by October. And it's because not that it goes so well with Indian food, but it goes so great with Thanksgiving turkey. It's a wonderful compliment. It's like having another cranberry sauce on the table. And, the nose leads with that beautiful ripe lychee, a touch of rose petals, some honeysuckle, and it just screams sweet. Like it's just going to just stick to the roof of your mouth. And when you taste it, it just completely fools you. You have all those wonderful fruit flavors, but it is bone dry.
Oh.
And just explodes in your mouth with fruit and flavor. And I mean, it just goes everywhere. Bruce, what's your impression of this wine?
Well, I'll tell you one thing is that I love this wine once it warms up just a bit. You know, I took it out of the fridge before, tasted it, then let it sit a little bit, and then it just opens right up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
that I love about it. I mean, you hit the spot in one way very easily. And I was thinking doing a shrimp with a coconut curry works really very well with it.
Wow.
But there's a very simple thing that my wife and I do at home. I make a pineapple chutney that's got a little caramelization to it, and serve it with cottage cheese as just a little appetizer, a cracker, some really nice cottage cheese. And locally here, there's a company called Cowgirl Creamery who now makes a beautiful cottage cheese topped with a little bit of this pineapple chutney. And that's a great combination for this wine.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Brings out the flavors that you're talking about, that tropical, the lychee, and it's just a really nice combination. And something else we tried last night, just tasting it, was, believe it or not, a fresh raspberry with a little bit of coconut cream, and it actually worked very well with it. It was a surprise. I like throwing things out there and trying them just because their flavor profiles, more than necessarily their actual flavors, but more their taste profiles, seem like they'd kind of work. And that worked pretty well. But I think the curry hits it very nicely. There are a lot of options on that end that you can work with. It would work well with a sushi as well. It'll take a little spice, you know, a little bit of heat. So yeah, it's a very versatile wine in that way.
Well,
I have to say that we've got a lot of inner circle members who love to send us recipes, and someone's just sending me a recipe today. I know Ray, you're out there. Ray sends me recipes of things he's trying, and our hope is to start a blog and have everybody send us some recipes that would go with different foods. So Bruce, we're gonna have to get yours on there.
I'll have a few recipes for you too by the end.
Great.
Perfect.
Well, one of the things that, on a more casual note, that we enjoy with this wine is popcorn with truffle salt. And it's just a great way to hang out and watch a movie. Butter, popcorn, and some truffle salt. So, now, the truffle salt I have is from France, and it's very strong. So I use just a very little bit of it. It's not enough salt for the popcorn, so I add a little just regular sea salt to it. And it's just a great complement with this.
Nice. Well, we made a little film for you that we're going to start sharing. And this film is, the facility you're going to see is the Owl Ridge Wine Services, where we make our wine. It's a crustal crush facility where several wineries produce their wines. We've been at this facility since its first days in 2001, when it was owned by our original winemaker, Greg LaFollette. And in this film, you can see Stephanie speaking with our current winemaker, Rick Davis. Rick has been making our wine since 2005. Our grapes are brought directly to this facility after being picked. You'll notice the fermentation tanks, the presses, the barrels. There's even a room where the bottling is done, but you won't see it in this film. As you can see, there are a lot of barrels. All of the barrels are French oak. We use about 8 different coopers. Each cooper sources from different forests using different toasting methods and has a unique signature. Each barrel affects the wine differently and adds complexity to the finished product. Brand new barrels impart a lot of oak flavor into the wine. The next year, that barrel is referred to as once used and gives off a fair amount of flavor. After that, we call them neutral, and they give off small amounts of flavor or none at all. We use about 30% new oak, 30% once used, and 40% neutral. And we've spent a lot of time at this facility. Unfortunately, we aren't really allowed to bring people in to do barrel tastings, but we really like it here very much.
Yeah, we're kind of the veterans there. And yeah, we miss being able to do barrel tastings with you. It was these COVID times have interfered, and as you can notice, this is not a hospitality center. This isn't your sort of dress up winery. This is a manufacturing facility, and we like bringing people there to introduce them to the fact that, you know, this is not Disneyland. We're in a manufacturing activity and an agricultural activity, and we're making this wine for you to enjoy at home.
Great. Well, I think that we're moving on to the Three Sons.
Okie
Change
dokie.
your glasses. This is the only one of the wines I've had so far, and it's phenomenal. It's very soft in my mouth, but it still has nice acid, and I'm just loving it. Very excited to be drinking it.
So I'm gonna pour myself a glass here using my trusty Corvin. And uh-oh, my Corvin just broke. I'm gonna have to open the bottle. So while I'm doing that, Three Sons, of course, is named after our three sons, Connor, Adam, and Quinn. Their names and ages are on the back of the bottle. If you have a bottle there, you'll notice that. And of course, it changes every year. They are now grown and gone and thriving independently. We're so proud and grateful to say. And this wine we thought we call our handshake wine. And what I mean by that is that most people are introduced to us through this wine. It is our lowest price Pinot Noir, and we've intentionally kept it at a price that is accessible for most and really easy to enjoy. But it's also because it sort of represents our style, which is, as I said before, you know, always a hat tip to the French. So if you think of the classic Russian River Valley Pinot Noir, it developed a reputation for being extremely fruit forward, sometimes in excess to be described as a fruit bomb. And while we definitely identify with California, we love living here, we love being a part of this community. You know, I think we've always really had a deep appreciation for Burgundy and the benchmark that they set in creating great wine. And so this wine is intended to be a hat tip to that, with not only that fruit forwardness that you get from having 6 months on the vines, where in Burgundy they get maybe 4.5 months of grapes on the vine before they harvest, but also some earthy notes, like some, forest floor we describe is that aroma that you get when you walk in a damp forest and it sort of comes up, and if you could translate that into a taste and put it into a beautiful glass of wine, we're shooting for that. And then these spices, clove, cinnamon, and certainly a black pepper finish. So Bruce, what do you think of this?
Well, I love the wine. I mean, I tasted all four last night. And the nice thing is I'm going to get to taste them again today after having sat with minus about this much wine. And it's lovely. It's lovely. It's a lively wine. I definitely get the earthiness and almost that kind of cedar that you're talking about, that forest floor. And so a couple things that really hit the spot. I do one dish, which is a grilled wild salmon with a cherry chutney and feta cheese, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, real nice combination. This wine likes salt, I gotta tell you. Another thing I tried with this is with a little bit of a salty Serrano ham, and it just really, the acidity in the wine, the liveliness of the wine just took it very well. It just blended the flavors beautifully. But the salmon's a nice dish. That's a nice way to go. There's so many different. It's a very food-friendly wine as far as I'm concerned. It drinks well, and it's got enough acidity to really hold up to a lot of different food items. But those are two that I thought worked really well with it.
Well, that's an interesting tip about the salt. A little very hidden wine secret is sometimes we add a teeny little bit of salt when we're making the wine, because it actually enhances the flavors of the wine. So, and that always tends to drive the wine towards being complemented by an additional salt. It's sort of like they marry together. So that's a little winemaking secret that we have. It's very, very delicate. You'd never taste it, but it definitely, you called it out right there. How it just kind of screams for that compliment.
And it blends the flavors. It really, really does. It brings everything to the fore. It's a really nice one. Really good.
We can see your little comments coming up. I'm reading them. 10 minutes away from a salmon dinner. My little hat says that.
A little dried cherry, and I'll make sure I throw this recipe in as well. I'll get this recipe to you because it's a really nice one.
We will definitely be publishing your recipes, Bruce, and you know, we're going to have to, when times allow, we're going to have to do a Halleck Vineyard inner circle dinner together and invite these guests to my home when it's not flooded again. And
what if we sent the recipe out to everybody who wanted to get on a Zoom call and make the recipe at home, and we all ate the same thing together with the wine?
There you go.
That would be totally fun.
That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I love that.
We can get a couple people to do that with us.
Yeah, I'm in on that one too.
Yeah, well, I know Ray is in. I mean, Ray is always sending us pictures of him cooking with our wines, and we're always so enchanted by the pictures that he sends of his finished dishes.
Yeah.
Quinn's piping in something here.
1010 would recommend. The hell does that? Heck, oops, sorry. Does that mean Quinn?
Well, Bridget says
love to have our sons chiming in here.
Yeah, nice to see you, Quinn. All right, and Quinn was. I'm just going to give a shout out to Quinn. He was the producer of that video from the Custom Crest facility, or Al Ridge. So thanks, Quinn, for that.
And just as a disclaimer, because Quinn put a lot of time into the sound of that video, we just found that it didn't translate going through two media through this channel. So Jennifer did a great job of voiceover for all the work that Quinn did in the sound production.
Yeah. I'll have to talk to you about that, Quinn.
All good. All right. So Hillside looks like Bridget Stern.
I'm excited to start the Hillside. So Ross, can you talk about the word cuvee? Because some people wonder, some people think cuvee means many different wines together. Our cuvee is different Pinot Noir vineyards, but it is 100% Pinot Noir. And sometimes people are confused by that, and they think it's different types of wine together. So I guess you don't have to say anything because I already said it.
Well, it's often used in champagne, which describes not only different wines but different vintages.
Different vintages, yeah.
Yeah. So cuvee just means blend, and we've sort of taken it to almost an extreme, because yes, it's 100% Pinot Noir, but it's a blend of vineyards, and that's not often how it's used to describe. We have two cuvées, which is the three Sons Cuvee and the Hillside Cuvee, and all of our other wines are now, except for the best of the best, are single vineyards. Yeah. And the best of the best is only two vineyards, and we shout them out on the back of the bottle. But it's a blend of our two probably most spectacular vineyards that we make wine from. So now opening up the 2017 Hillside Cuvee. So the Three Sons Cuvee is a blend of vineyards from the Russian River Valley.
It's got a nice nose.
And the Hillside Cuvee is a blend of vineyards from Sonoma Coast. Now that sounds like very distinctly different regions, but they overlap. And so we kind of make the call on which vineyards we use on both, but we're really striving to create signature expressions of these two regions. And so what were you going to say, Jens?
Well, I'm just trying it for the first time. And one thing, year after year after year, what I notice, and Rick is very good at looking at all of our vineyards and putting together something that makes sense from the year before. So he has a continuing style, like the Three Sons is a style and the Hillside Cuvee is a style. And they're not always the exact same mix of vineyards. Sometimes they're different. It really depends on what the vineyard tastes like. But what I always notice, I'm not good at saying, oh, that tastes like cherries or strawberries or rhubarb or whatever. I don't really do that very well. But what I like to talk about is how it feels in your mouth, because we all can talk about how it feels in our mouth. So to me, the Three Sons is always up front. I get a lot of stuff up front, but the Hillside always slides in and then lands in the back. And I just love that difference for some reason. So I don't know if you guys get that at all or if it's just me, but.
Well, I think it definitely coats your entire mouth. And this wine has this wonderful, very, very earthy nose to it. Along with those red fruit tones, it has that touch of pheromonal quality, you know, that often described as you know, not very romantic here in California. They call it a barnyard.
Okay.
But in France, they call it sauvage or animal. And don't worry, I got the tip, Jens.
I'm reeling you back in, Ross.
But you know, it's just got that really sort of wild note to it. And again, a wonderful food wine. Bruce, what do you think about this?
Well, first, I love this wine.
Mm.
This is the style of Pinot that really hits me well because it's got that kind of depth of deeper fruit, and it's just got a balance with the silky tannins that I just love. Mm-hmm. And this wine, so this wine for me will work beautifully with a paella. Mm-hmm. But a specific, you know, there are a lot of different ingredients you can put into a paella. You know, for me, it starts out obviously with the rice and saffron and olives, and I use a chorizo in there and I use a chicken in there. But also what I like to do is rather than go the seafood direction, to do some grilled meat on top right at the end. So that you've got all of those flavors from chickpeas and the green olives and everything else, a little bit of spiciness from the chorizo, that kind of, you know, richness that you get from saffron. And then you top it with, whether it's like a grilled venison or a grilled duck or even beef or anything else you want that just sits right on top after the rest is cooked. This would be beautiful with that. I just love the wine, and I think that combination would be great. I mean,
so
what's that?
When you make your paella, do you make a sofrito to fold into it?
Yes, I definitely do. You know, it's garlic and parsley and onions and tomato and everything else. It gets cooked out for a long period of time until it falls apart, and then becomes part of the flavor of everything else that goes into it. Absolutely, it's a really nice way to do it. You know, just one other comment on the way I look at food and wine pairings. It's not necessarily, well, you know, you can say Pinot goes with lamb, it goes with duck, it goes with salmon or whatever. It's really all about the flavors and the sauces and the accompaniments that makes the pairing and the combination really sing. And a lot of that has to do with the individual person, because the three of us do not experience the wine or the wine and the food exactly the same way because we don't have the same taste buds. So when you start to do this, you know, if somebody's working with a recipe or a dish, I really encourage you to just kind of look at it on your own and taste it and taste the wine and throw a little salt, throw a little pepper, try this or try that. And all of a sudden you can make a great pairing. Just really, you can make a pairing sing and make it, I call it making a good pairing great. And it's really all about those little touches that you add to it that makes all the difference in the world. And some of that is the state of the wine. You know, some of the Hillside goes back into my wine closet and comes out tomorrow, it's going to be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So I may not intentionally do it because it's now 2 days old, but it'll obviously do what it wants to do, and then I'll do what I want to do, and we'll kind of meet somewhere in the middle and we'll enjoy it. If that makes sense. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, and I love
it.
the fact that you talk about the state of the wine, because it changes. Well, and not only does the wine change every day, which surprises people to hear, but we change every day. It just depends on how much sleep we had, who we're enjoying the company with, the environment that we're in. There's just so many variables that contribute to our moment to moment experience, that being able to sort of lean in to that experience and cook, as you describe, from that place, that sort of present place, is how to make a good pairing great. I think that's brilliant. Thank you.
And
I always find too the same way that if you're really stressed out, sometimes wine doesn't taste good at all because your body's reacting to it for some reason.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? On a 90-degree day, I'm not in the mood to drink the same thing as I am on a 75-degree day, or it depends on so many different things. It really does.
Bruce, would you tip your computer up just a little bit? It's cutting off the top of your head. Yeah. Thank
How's
you.
that better?
Much better. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So, to that point, like this last week of weather is really a classic, because I did a tasting this morning, and it was, 55 degrees or maybe 60 degrees on my back deck. And 2 days ago, Monday, I did it, or I guess that's 2 days ago, it was 111.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, the experience was very, very different. The wines taste very, very different. And, so it's just, it's to your point, every day brings a set of variables that are worthy of sort of leaning into.
Yeah. And you just have to feel free to experiment and try something. Pull something out of your cupboard and throw it in, or, there are so many variables in that you can play with. It's great.
Well, I totally love this wine. Totally love this wine.
Yeah.
So
So the first wine we had was a Russian River Cuvee, a blend of Russian River fruit. And the second one, the Hillside, is a blend of Sonoma Coast fruit. So Stephanie's going to come back on right now, and she's going to, there she is. I got to make this bigger. So she's going to talk to you a little bit about Sonoma County and the differences in the AVAs.
All right, gang, I'm going to show you the map of the American viticultural areas. That is a shout out to Connor Halleck. Connor Halleck made this map for us. So all in the family here.
Hey, Connor.
And this is a map of the Sonoma County American viticultural areas. The ones that are highlighted here are the places that we source from. And just to give you a brief overview, AVA stands for American Viticultural Area, and it basically marks a geographical area that produces wine. Sonoma County is a very large county. Oops, I made myself a little big. There we go. Sonoma County is a very large county, and it's actually double the size of Napa. So a lot of people in the country and in the world think that Napa is wine country, but wine country is actually, quite large, especially in California. And Sonoma's double the landmass of Napa. And so what makes that particularly interesting is that Sonoma has many different AVAs and many different soil profiles and elevations and climates, even within particular AVAs like the Russian River Valley, sub-AVAs. So what I wanted to point out to you here, what's kind of what most people might not know, is that in the northern part of Sonoma County, these AVAs, you have a lot of big grape varietals that are popular, like Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Zinfandel, like up here near Knights Valley, Alexander Valley, and Dry Creek Valley. Where we mostly source from is Sonoma Coast, Russian River Valley, and then we do source from one vineyard in Sonoma Mountain. But they vary from cool climate to warm climate. And that's what makes Sonoma County very, very interesting. You have a big range pretty much anything and everything can kind of grow here in Sonoma County. Jennifer and I were just talking earlier about the different variations, for example, from down near the southern part of Sonoma. If you were to visit Sonoma proper, down here in the area close to like the Petaluma Gap, Sonoma Mountain, you might have a very different experience than if you were to go all the way up to Alexander Valley, or even over here in Russian River Valley or Sonoma Coast. The Sonoma Coast is typically a cooler climate. Russian River Valley, it can be both a cool climate and a warm climate. And then mostly in that northern part of Sonoma County is a warm climate. So it's kind of an interesting American viticultural area that I call it the Garden of Eden. Everything and anything grows in Sonoma. And the other thing that makes Sonoma County and the American viticultural areas here interesting is because a lot of things grow here, we're not just known for one or two particular grapes. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ross or Jennifer or Bruce?
Well, one thing about Sonoma Coast is that is a large, large AVA, and it actually sits on top of all these other AVAs, and they're eventually starting to split it up. And so at some point, you're going to see that differentiated into 3 or 4 smaller AVAs that will be more specific. But right now, it's kind of like just a catch-all of a lot of different areas. And also to go from the tip at Los Carneros all the way up to the top, which would be going to Mendocino, that's about a 3-hour drive. That's how big this, or more, it's actually maybe more. That's how big this this county is. It's a very big county.
We have,
and it's not just size; it's topography,
right?
Because the roads, you know, I mean, if you're as the crow flies, it's big, but the roads are very windy and mountainous, and you know, when you're driving along the coast, you've got sometimes 1,000-foot drop. Well, maybe not 1,000-foot, but several 100-foot drop down to the ocean. It's quite dramatic.
Yeah, and temperature variations. I mean, just within a 20-minute drive from where I am, which is just 20 minutes from the coast, can be a 10 degree or more climate difference.
Sometimes 30 degrees.
Yeah,
right.
The coast is typically a cooler climate, and then again, Russian River Valley is typically a cooler climate, but it can also be a very warm climate. So you get a lot of different grape varietals that can grow here. It's really fun place to be.
We just love sharing all these little tidbits with you guys because we live them every day. So thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, my pleasure. And now we are going to taste the Clone 828, which comes from the
Black Knight.
The Black
Knight, right at the tip of Petaluma Gap.
Yeah, right there. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So Clone 828, a little bit about Clone 828. So Jennifer and I had the privilege and surprise to win #1 Pinot Noir in the United States in our very first vintage with our name on it in 2002. And Clone 828, a clone is a sub variety of Pinot Noir. Oops, my glasses are kind of crooked. Sub variety of Pinot Noir, and it's a French clone. Comes from from Dijon. And we had the opportunity to make the very first wine with Clone 828 in 2006 on an invitation from a grower who was interested in exploring from some of his selected choice vintners in the area what they might do with this wine. And so we bought a bit of it and in 2006 and made just an extraordinary wine. And it was really one of the closest wines to French Burgundy that we had ever made, except for our estate grown. And then he would not sell it to us again because he had his own winery and used the examples from each of the vintners that he offered to sell fruit to as a baseline for what he did with his winery. And we were not able to get this fruit again until 2013 when, because let's just put this into context, after the movie Sideways, which was in 2004, everybody wanted to plant Pinot Noir. And so all of a sudden, all the Clone 828 was swept up and planted around Sonoma County. And we were able to capture some of it and get a contract on some of this fruit in the Sonoma Mountain in the Sonoma Coast region, a Black Knight vineyard. And we began making individual clone, individual vineyard. And this is the wine that last year, 2019, won best of class in the San Francisco Chronicle wine competition, which is the oldest and longest running in the United States. And coincidentally, and I guess fortuitously, we also won best of class with the farm vineyard Pinot Noir. And so we were the first winery in the history of the competition that won the 2 best of class awards. And this wine, there was kind of a beautiful, poetry behind winning with both a Pinot Noir from Sonoma Coast and a Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley, because they are very different styles of wine, even though we make them exactly the same way. So this wine really leads with a very spicy note to it.
I love the nose of Pinot Noirs.
Yeah,
They have
me too.
such great noses.
It doesn't have the same earthy tone of the hillside.
Kind of a higher tone. Mhm.
It's got a higher tone, more minerally tone.
It's a little less, it's not as heavy as the hillside had more, it was heavier wine.
Well, and that's interesting because I think they change. And this is to Bruce's point. This wine is often the most complex wine that we make. And right now it's tasting a little lighter than the hillside. I don't think that's anything we can count on. I think it will continue to develop and continue to expand, because I've tasted this wine just a month ago and it had much more complexity to it. Right now it's tasting, it's tasting very good, but it doesn't have those really spectacular notes that I noticed in the hillside. What do you think, Bruce?
Well, I think that this one, it's that kind of minerality and acidity that lightens it up, that kind of brings this wine up into a place. I like it a lot, and I think that it's for this one, from the food end of it, this will also handle fat, I guess.
Yeah. It's that acidity. Yes,
it's got the acidity, and that will cut right through it, and actually that will bring out a lot more of the complexity of the wine. So whether it's duck or a pork dish that's cooked, I think in terms of duck, this has got great integrated fruit with it as well. And so, a duck with a cherry sauce is kind of like a no-brainer. It's an easy one. And if it's breast, we'll leave the fat on the breast. If it's confit, in fact, one of my fun recipes, I love duck confit, and I have a recipe. It's a crock pot confit, because duck confit can be a bit of a pain to make, but you can salt and spice the duck, put it in a crock pot and let it cook overnight, or while you go to work or whatever, and you come back and it's ready, and you can shred it or you can pull it out whole and crisp up the skin. And so it's got that richness that would work really well with this wine. Would just sing with that. And then you just bring out the fruit, whatever you want to bring out, whether it's a pomegranate or some cooked raspberry glaze or cherry. It'll just kind of bring out the fruit in the wine, and I think would balance it really, really well. So that's sort of the direction that this one goes for me.
Yeah.
You are making me so hungry.
Well, and I really love to hear this, because the minerality of this wine really lends itself to fruit. And I oftentimes think of fruit, for instance, duck with cherry sauce, as the cherry sauce kind of taking the the cherry sauce kind of competing with the wine, because I like to think of the wine as bringing in the fruit. But in this particular case, the mineral quality of the wine would be really beautifully complemented by that fruit, as opposed to compete with it.
Yeah, it definitely, it's a bridge. It's kind of a flavor bridge from one to the other. And I use that concept all the time. You know, I mean, back to your Gewürztraminer, you know, I mean, the whole idea of ginger and pineapple, you know, are two things that work well together. Well, a pineapple chutney and the flavors that kind of almost emulate a little bit of that ginger in the wine. It's that flavor bridge. And here, it's exactly what you're talking about. It makes all the sense in the world with the fruit.
Yeah, good one. Good one.
Well, let's move on to the best of the best. I'm excited for that one.
So I haven't tasted
And
this
I
one
will
yet.
say that the 828 is one of our most popular wines and always sells out so quickly. I'm surprised how many people have been enjoying the 828.
It's a good one. It's a really nice wine.
Yeah.
So this is a very special wine, and you'll notice it has a paper label, our very first paper label of our wines. And it's because we blended two entirely different wines from two great vineyards to create the best of the best. And we make both a Haas vineyard wine, and we make the farm vineyard Pinot Noir. And we thought we'd take just a little of each and see how they tasted. And we did it in the barrel room when we were making the wines, and we said, "Oh my gosh, this is like we got it." You know, now this is only going to be available to our wine club. So you guys are the only one. We don't have very much of it. So this is just for you. And sometimes we just like to get a little, we like to get a little creative. And so this is the first time I'm tasting it. So I'm just opening it as we speak.
And this is a 2016.
This is a 2016. So we're just releasing this wine.
I promise next time I will have Ross prepared with all the bottles open.
Oh, come on. Are you apologizing for me, Jennifer? No need. This is an old married couple, right? Old unmarried couple.
So I want to hear you describe this one.
Okay, so as I said, this is the first time I'm tasting this wine. The very first bottle I'm opening. So first out of the gate, I get some licorice notes in the nose, which is a really distinctive and, I mean, delightful flavor when I can find that in a Pinot Noir. And
right.
Definitely varied spices.
It's a very pungent nose.
What's that?
It's a very pungent nose. Like I really feel it exciting my nose.
Yeah, dark cherry and anise or licorice. And then there's some mineral tones too. Oh my gosh. Well, the fruit comes through. It's not the dark cherry that I was expecting. It's a little more like red cherry. And I'm really wonderful savory spices. I get the anise in there.
It's got some tannin to it.
Oh yeah, it's got structure.
Find that? Yeah, I'm getting tannin.
Really great structure. Bruce, what calls to you? A totally different palate.
Well, I find it just a well-balanced wine between the tannins and the acidity, where with the minerality and on the 828 and the acidity stood out a little bit more. I think that the balance here is really nice.
It's also a year older.
What's that?
It's a year older, so that has something to do with that.
And it's a different wine. It's a very much a different wine. Yeah. One of it's a really simple. I'll tell you what. There's a simple dish that I do that I'm back to the tomato thing again, because here's the thing: is that tomatoes are fruit. It's not a vegetable, and so in a lot of ways, it can interact well, and Pinot and tomato work very well together. What I do is I have a over harvest of tomatoes pretty much every year. What I do is I take my little tomatoes and I throw them in the freezer whole. And then what I do is when I'm ready to cook them, I take them out, run them under the water, like lukewarm water for a minute, pop off the skins, and a little extra olive oil, a little fresh herb, like basil, and I make a pasta sauce with them. That takes about 5 minutes to make. And it's that anise and basil combination that works really well in this case for me. The acidity on the tomatoes is not exceptional, but and it just balances well. Really fresh, really clean, and it sings with the wine. It really sings with the wine. But this wine will work with so many things. I mean, I can't, you know, I mean, I can easily see a roasted rack of lamb with this. You know, really clean, simple rack of lamb with a nice cherry balsamic glaze or something like that would also work really well, because it kind of interesting high notes in lamb that work well with this wine. I love the wine. I think that it's got, I really like that anise feature to it. It's one of the things that works really well for me in this particular wine that I love in just those selected types of Pinots that come through with it.
Super nice.
Well, I just want to give everybody a heads up that I am literally stepping into another live event.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up now, so you have 4 minutes.
Okay, I have 4 minutes. I just wanted to. Okay.
We can say that. We just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce, for your recipes. There was also a question about the beef Wellington. Would beef Wellington go well with it?
I don't see why not.
Right?
You know, I mean, remember that filet is a pretty light flavored beef, so there's nothing in a beef Wellington that would overpower it. And this wine has enough going on to handle the foie gras. The mushrooms obviously will work with the wine because there's some earthiness in there that'll work with it as well. So yeah, I think it could work actually very well with it. No problem at all.
And then we have one question. It's why did we wait so long to release the best of the best from the Bluestones?
I don't know. No real reason, actually.
No.
You know, just that we kind of fit it in with there. We've really only got enough to send out with a wine club shipment, and so we kind of had to fit it into the wine club shipment. So it's going to be going out to the wine club shipment, and then there's not going to be much left. So yeah.
And then dark chocolate work with it. Absolutely. Thanks everybody for being here with us, and thanks Bruce for your for all of your recipes. And it's definitely dinner time for me.
It's been a pleasure.
I just wanted.
And then Jennifer has
I just wanted to say, so we got a lot of Inner Circle members out there who are listening, and these have been all the wines that we've selected for your upcoming shipment. So remember, Inner Circle members can personalize their selection of wines. I'm going to send you all an email tomorrow, and it will have the wines in it, and it will also have an explanation about how to change the shipment to your preferences. So you'll definitely be able to do that. Yeah. And remember, you get free shipping on any orders of 6 bottles as our club members. And, you know, just on the last thing I'd like to say, our mission is to build community through wine, aside from obviously making delicious wine. So we make delicious wine, but our mission is to build community through wine. And Ross and I have been doing this for almost 20 years, and we have made so many friends in the process. And I'm just watching all your little names come up with your little comments, and I'm just loving that you guys are here and spending this time with us. So I really appreciate that. We've been doing this for 20 years, and we've made a lot of friends, whether it's at a dinner party at your house, a Zoom call, a phone call, an email. I've done so many emails with so many of you. Dinner in New York, a Josh Groban concert. We feel close to so many of you. We've shared your anniversaries, your proposals, your marriages, your kids' marriages, your birthdays, and we're very honored to be part of your life. And we hope to see more of you face to face in 2021. And just thank you, everybody, and we love you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.